These doctors all ended up behind bars. In 2017, Dr. Christopher Dunge, a once prominent neurosurgeon, was sentenced to life behind bars after botching surgeries.
Confinement in the Institutional Division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for life.
The charge, intentionally maiming patients.
A medical license does not keep you from prosecution if you maim and kill people.
This will not bring my mother back, but it is some sense of justice for all of the families, for all of the victims.
Caitlin Lenough's mother, Kelly Martin, bled to death during back surgery performed by Duntsch. Mary Efford says the doctor's botched surgery on her back left her paralyzed.
I said, he will never touch me again.
For 2 weeks, Duntsch sat stone-faced listening to testimony from former patients who said he performed unnecessary surgery just to make money.
Because of greed. Because he owed people a lot of money. He wanted to live the high life.
She's a monster.
Psychopath.
Killer.
Jacqueline Troy says she only has a whisper of a voice after Duntsch paralyzed her vocal cords.
They didn't know if I would survive.
Jeff Cheney says Duntsch removed part of his spinal cord by mistake, leaving the right side of his body paralyzed.
I was horrified. I was speechless.
Lee Passmore says he's suffering from crippling nerve spasms after Duntsch operated on his spine.
It feels like somebody has an ice pick planted squarely in my back.
There were tears of justice after the patients realized Duntsch would never be allowed to operate again.
This is what I'm waiting 4.5 years for.
In 2018, victims of U.S. gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar spoke out.
I testified to let the world know that you are a repulsive liar.
I am Jessica Tomashow, also known as Victim A. I was sexually assaulted by Larry Nassar when I was 9 and 12 years old. You broke and shattered a lot of girls. You manipulated us to trust you because you're a doctor, and doctors do no wrong, only heal. You are not a healer.
He betrayed my trust, took advantage of my youth, and sexually abused me hundreds of times.
The mom of one victim spoke on behalf of her daughter.
In 2009, she took her own life because she couldn't deal with the pain anymore.
The victims describe how Nassar violated them even while their parents were in the examination room, unaware of what was going on.
His conniving and calculating behavior not only tricked me, but he tricked my mom, who was present for all my appointments as a minor.
Kyle Stevens says Nassar began abusing her when she was 6 years old in his basement. Her parents were friends with Nassar and his wife.
You used my body for 6 years for your own sexual gratification. That is unforgivable. You convinced my parents that I was a liar.
When her father found out the truth, he was devastated.
My father and I did our best to patch up our tattered relationship before he committed suicide in 2016. Perhaps you have figured it out by now, but little girls don't stay little forever. They grow into strong women that return to destroy your world.
Nassar eventually responded to his victims.
Your words these past several days, your words have had a significant emotional effect on myself and is shaking to my core.
The judge read him his sentence.
I'm giving you 175 years.
In 2023, these women embraced each other for support after their former gynecologist, Robert Hadden, was sentenced to 20 years behind bars.
It was a step towards justice. There was accountability. He will never hurt a woman or a girl again.
Anne Mercogliano has more.
Dr. Robert Hadden was convicted of sexually abusing 4 women, but is a suspect in 200 others. Several of those women were in court today to hear the sentencing. The federal judge gave the disgraced doctor an opportunity to speak. Hadden, through tears, said he was sorry for the pain he had inflicted. Hadden's wife sobbed as the 20-year sentence was pronounced.
There's a bit of a relief, a smidge, and there's a lot of sorrow and sadness.
It's disheartening. I referred patients, I referred friends, and I think that's one of the guilt hasn't left me.
Hadden was once a well-regarded OBGYN working at 2 prestigious New York hospitals.
He sexually assaulted me 2 days before my son was born.
At that moment, I was frozen, and I'm not frozen anymore.
You had a responsibility. We trusted you.
He was a professional manipulator, groomer. He is the definition of grooming victims.
From October of 2024, Dr. Stephen Matthews seemed like quite the catch on Single Scene. His dating app profile showed that he loved camping, snowboarding, traveling, and homemade dinners. He was also a prominent cardiologist at a Denver hospital, but he ended up being arrested for drugging and raping his dates.
I got in the hot tub, and the very last thing I remember is just looking at the water, and then just lights out.
Audrey says it happened on her first date with Dr. Matthews. Her mother found her at home.
She was in the shower, half clothed, and just making no sense.
Stephen Fabian has more.
After Audrey came forward to tell her story, 10 more women found the courage to accuse Dr. Matthews. Prosecutors say there are likely dozens more victims staying in the shadows. Each had the same story, waking up groggy after a first date with no recollection of what had happened. You coming forward really started this process. You really made a difference here.
It was not easy. It was not an easy decision, and it was not an easy road. But I knew it was the right thing to do, and I stuck to my guns, and I did it.
Matthew was found guilty of 35 charges.
It would be improper if you did not serve a sentence for each victim individually. The total number of years are 158 years in prison. This matter is concluded.
There is no amount of time that takes away what happened. It does mean you won't be able to do it to anybody else.
From 2019, it's a name that conjures up conflicting feelings. Dr. Jack Kavorkian. The Michigan pathologist was famous for pushing the right to die.
When a law is deemed immoral by you, you must disobey it.
Al Pacino played Kavorkian in the HBO film You Don't Know Jack.
If a person's allowed to die, you do it quickly, painlessly. You don't let him wither away.
Well, the media's reaction and public's reaction seemed to be favorable to the procedure that he was performing. However, they started to state that it was the proper message, but the wrong messenger. My response to that, of course, eventually was to the effect, who else would be the right messenger? Nobody else who performed it would even admit to it or talk about it. And the only way he could get it out nationally, internationally, was to promote it in such a manner as he did.
In the 1980s and 90s, Kavorkian took advantage of Michigan's non-specific laws on assisted suicide. After qualifying his patients, he created ways for them to self-administer lethal substances to end their life. His inventions came to be known as suicide machines. He evaded arrest and conviction for years.
He was a showman. He was a provocateur. He was abrasive. He wasn't polite. He was intent on making a statement from his perspective. Highlighting the problem is a genuine social service. Now, on the other side, Jack Kavorkian did essentially nothing to offer society a solution to that problem. He was not politically adept in any way. He did not proceed with the kind of social change that would make a medical procedure available to people that they wouldn't have to travel, or changing the culture of medicine.
In 1999, he was convicted and sentenced to 25 years in prison, but was released after 8 years on the condition that he no longer assists people on ending their lives.
It's done a lot by doctors, but they just don't come out and admit it. They don't want to be in trouble. I think that he sacrificed a lot. He didn't do it for money. He did it because he believed in it.
Dr. Kavorkian died in 2011 at the age of 83. For Inside Edition Digital, I'm Andrea Swindall.